Money that is in the system, whether it's in bank accounts or whether it's in IRAs and 401ks, it can be taken with a click. It can be seized with a click. Assets out of the system, gold and silver, that's even if it's owned by your IRA, but it's buried in a hole in your ground and it's sheltered by this LLC as well, it can't be taken with a click.
Hey friends, welcome back. Guys, on this call, we're going to talk to Will Lair. He's the managing partner over at Perpetual Assets, and we're going to talk about how to protect your assets before the economy collapses completely and Wall Street takes all the paper down. Will, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Sean. How are you, buddy?
Hey man, I'm good. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. Will, what do you make of this incredible news we see? I mean, we knew there was a new gold fix going in at the SGE on April 19th on Tuesday. And what do we see on Tuesday? We see silver breaking loose, up 75 cents at one point.
Yeah, at one point, so it was up 80 cents, and I haven't seen that. I swear, Sean, it feels like it's been years. You know, we've been lulled to sleep over the last couple of years as precious metals investors. And those of us that know the jig is up, that understand monetary history, that understand the metals, we don't care. We've still been buying the whole time. It looks like things are really starting to come unfurled. People might be starting to wake up.
Well, I think you're right. And let me just read this from the article at Zero Hedge that came out on Tuesday. The buying accelerated on Tuesday when ongoing demand for the precious metal pushed it to fresh 10-month highs above $17 an ounce. One reason suggested for the buying came from Reuters, which said that there is heavy buying in silver in Shanghai, and that has triggered buying in gold as well. Will, if the Chinese are now going to acquire physical silver, that is absolute game over. We already know Deutsche Bank has admitted to rigging the price of silver and rigging the price of gold. The LBMA paper Ponzi is a joke. The whole world knows it. The LBMA silver fix has fallen apart. This is it, man. This is the game changer. I don't know if you've seen any of those WebBot reports predicting these types of moves in earnest here in the spring of 2016. Maybe it's really going to happen.
Yeah. Whether it's WebBot reports or people like our friend Bo Polney, who I just had on like about a week ago, and he said, the metals are going to break out to the upside big next week, and here we are. Sean, the silver market, as you and I both know, is very, very, very small. The amount of physical silver that is actually in existence in the world available for investors to buy, it's extremely small. So I've been waiting for just a couple of billionaires to get together and decide to corner the market. But here we have a country like China, and with reports that if they're going to start going long investment grade silver in physical form, this could be it. Our days could be numbered. Absolutely.
Well, and what do you think it'll do to the global markets? So many of us have been saying, Chris Duane, our mutual friend, has been saying for so long that silver is the Achilles heel of the international criminal bankers. If silver is going to fly higher and trade freely, Will, it could bring these banking houses to their knees, as we've seen Deutsche Bank trying to get rid of 1.1 trillion of their derivatives, trying to sell to Goldman and JP Morgan. These banking houses do not want to see silver trade freely, Will, but if it happens, it could spell disaster for the paper financial markets and all the instruments tied to paper.
And I run into very wealthy individuals, billionaires occasionally, and you say to them, well, I'm a billionaire, and you say, really, what do you have? And I say, well, I have these stocks and these bonds and these assets, and I look at them and say, no, you don't. You have electrons. All of that wealth you just described is in digital form. You may get a paper statement from your broker, and that may make you feel warm and fuzzy, but if Putin or the Chinese or the Iranian or the Syrian cyber brigades breach those systems and wipe out those records, you have nothing. And good luck restoring it. Good luck finding your wealth again. It'll be completely gone.
And so I get concerned about people's paper positions. We can talk about that in a second, but silver really is the Achilles heel. And what happens, Will, if silver trades freely?
You know, Sean, everything breaks. That's what happens. Chris Duane is right. We haven't seen, Bick Weir is right. We haven't seen a freely traded, fair market, real price of silver in Lord knows how many, 100 years, plus. So yeah, it is such the Achilles heel of the system. When it finally breaks out in price point, I think we're going to see numbers on the price of silver that even you and I may not even be able to imagine. And yes, it's going to coincide with if it isn't the catalyst for the complete breaking of the global financial system that you and I know as it is today. If it's not the catalyst, it'll certainly coincide with it. And it looks like everything is stacking up right now. I mean, we've got all these look what's been going on in banking in the last week or two. You've had secret meetings with the Fed. You've had lots of turmoil going on in the banking sector. So it looks to be poised. Yeah.
The point here is that the fixing power is moving away decidedly and decisively away from the LBMA, where the silver and gold fix stood for over 100 years. It's a sea change, Will, and I think one of the things we should talk about as we see this criminality now being exposed globally on the world stage, let's talk about how to protect ourselves. Will, I'm going to be honest with you. I screwed up years ago when I left a job. I had the ability to liquidate some of my 401k, and I did so at great tax penalties. In hindsight, I've learned that there are these LLC IRAs which have no taxes and no penalties, which allow you to get at some of that retirement money, get it under your own control for the purposes of investing in precious metals and precious metals mining stocks, correct me if I'm wrong, with no taxes and no penalties. Is that correct?
It is, Sean. Yeah, it is a little known, if not a completely, undiscovered concept, structure, strategy within the retirement industry. It's a unique type of self-directed IRA, and one of the biggest, you can use it to invest in just about anything imaginable, but in our community, for your listeners, one of the biggest, benefits is precious metals. With this structure, the individual can take physical, personal possession, physical delivery of certain gold and silver coins or platinum, and store them wherever he or she deems necessary, under the mattress, a hole in the backyard. You want to keep them separate from personal assets because these are IRA-owned assets. But yeah, to your point, I did the same thing, Sean, several years ago before I knew about this. I woke up, I was concerned about the criminality. I was concerned about money just sitting in the system, whether it was in mutual funds or in cash. And I cashed out and paid taxes and 10% penalty. It took about half of the account. I learned about this concept because I had clients doing the same thing, and I learned about this. Somebody said, no, you can actually do what's called an IRA LLC. You put the IRA or the 401k or both into this type of self-directed IRA, and you can invest. It opens up unimaginable investments, but you can take gold and silver coins and store them at home and not pay the taxes and penalties. So for those of us in the metals, in this community, looking at the way things are going, it's a fantastic option for many of us who want to protect our assets, who want to get them out of the system, but don't want to look at those large taxes and penalties that are associated with doing so.
Okay, so help us break this down. So let's say that I'm a listener and I have a job that I've been at for 20 years and all of my retirement money is locked up in my current employer's 401k. Mm-hmm. Can that listener take advantage of this?
It depends, John. Current 401ks, whereby you're actively employed with the company and you're participating in that 401k, or maybe you're not, but you've got money locked up in it. In most cases, about 86% of cases, you're stuck. Unless you have attained age 59 and a half. Sometimes there's a vesting schedule, if you've been there for 100 years and sometimes there's a vesting schedule. If you're 55, if you're close to that age, you may be able to roll out half of it or something like that. Usually though, Sean, if you are under 59 and a half and you're actively employed with that company, then that 401k money is locked up. Now, we've had people get very creative in the past. I've had clients negotiate a rehire with their company. Clearly, it wasn't, they weren't working for Target. It was a company, a family business or something where they were able to negotiate, hey, I've got to quit. I've got to sever employment to trigger this rollover, but I'd like to continue my job, So we've had people that have been able to negotiate rehires. I had one lady who was able to switch. We confirmed with her plan administrator that if she switched her employment status to part-time, that would trigger a change in employment status that would allow the rollover. So yeah, to answer your question, current 401ks can be tricky. And in most cases, folks are locked up, unfortunately. But for everything else, it's pretty wide open. If you've attained 59 and a half, if you've left that employer, if it's an IRA of any kind, it's eligible.
Okay, so the norm these days, Will, really is that most people don't stay at a job for 20 years and they have multiple IRAs and multiple accounts from multiple jobs that they've had over 20 years. Again, this isn't going to really apply to the guy who's 24 and just getting out of college, but for the guy who's 44 or the woman who's 54, who's had 3 great jobs over her career, and she has one 401k right now she's participating in. She can't really get at that money, but she has 2 other accounts, 2 other IRAs or 2 other former accounts from former employers. Those are eligible, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and we do anything we can to try to help folks. Obviously, we'll help find out if we can get to the money. If it's a current 401k, we'll do everything we can to try to talk to your 401k admin to see if there's a way. But yeah, you're exactly right. Most people have other IRA monies out. It's a small percentage of folks that have been at the same career for several decades, and that's their only retirement vehicle. They do exist, but for most folks, we've got other pieces here or parts there, whether it be an old 401k or an IRA somewhere. So yeah, this allows you to take those monies, and again, we have clients that'll bring over 4 or 5 old IRAs. You can roll them all under one house, just like you can with a normal IRA. Only in this case, it's not an IRA at Merrill Lynch or Fidelity that's going to invest in vanilla mutual funds. It's an IRA that's actually going to purchase a newly formed limited liability company that we file in the client's state of residence, and it functions as an investment holding company. And one of the last steps is we help the client open up a bank account at their local bank or their local credit union or their local big money laundering bank, whatever they prefer. And that bank account is in the name of this LLC, is in the name of this company. And this LLC is owned by their self-directed IRA account. That bank account is where the cash goes, is where their IRA or 401k cash goes. And then from there, Mr. Client, Mrs. Client has complete checkbook control of the IRA. He can issue private loans. Traditionally, historically, this has been used over the last 20, 25 years for private equity, for people who, typically high net worth investors that have they have connections where they know people where they can put money in private equity and generate 25, 30% returns, maybe even more. That's historically what this has been used for. But in our community, once we got word of it and the exemption in the tax code that exists for a certain type of coin that can be owned by an IRA, but doesn't have to be stored at Delaware Depository or some third-party depository. So for those of us that are keen on precious metals, that are watching these metals break out, Sean, I've got clients that are, one I'm thinking of in particular, gentleman was a financial advisor for 50 years, very successful. And he doesn't know what to do with his money today. He's in the same boat we are. Well, Will, I guess I'll just buy more gold. What do I do with my money? Aside from, if you're an ultra high net worth investor and you can get access to, farmland, productive real estate, those types of things are probably fantastic investments right now. Maybe better than gold or silver, maybe not. But for most of us, gold and silver are a no-brainer investment into physical metals in your possession, are a no-brainer investment in today's, not only investment, it's like the only place that most of us can really think is safety for our savings.
Yeah, you're right. And I wanted to bring this up too. I've been in touch with one of the attorneys at Quinn Emanuel. That's one of the law firms in New York City that is busy with this Deutsche Bank lawsuit. There's been 2 lawsuits filed, billion-dollar lawsuits that are going to be attempting to penalize Deutsche Bank for its criminality and try to recover losses for those who have been victimized by the precious metals manipulation. So this stuff's really important to me, Will, because I want people to be able to protect themselves, and those who have already been injured, like me. I've lost a lot of money in the silver and gold market because of the vicious manipulation by the criminal banks. I want people to be able to recover some of those losses. So again, I'm going to follow that story very closely, and I will have more information for folks about how they might be able to get involved in class action lawsuits here in the future to try to get some recovery. Of course, with that said, Will, if silver keeps going up back to 50 and higher, maybe those of us who have been injured will already be made whole. But I am concerned about this government. I am concerned about the overreach of the federal government as it relates to people's IRAs, as it relates to people's retirement accounts, as it relates to bail-ins, as it relates to the clear and present danger of our broken nation and our bankrupt treasury. What do you see as some of the dangers moving forward for people who don't take action and people who just remain in the status quo and just leave their money where it is?
Great question. I mean, from a financial perspective, the biggest dangers you just mentioned, bail-ins. We're facing a government that has gone broke. It makes me think of the Girls Gone Wild. Any of these news clips that I see today, it's like government's gone wild. Every headline I read today, government's gone wild. I mean, it's insanity, Sean. So, yeah, we're facing the largest bankruptcy in the history of mankind. We're facing a monetary experiment that is in its end of days. We're facing a paradigm shift in money. So, if we rewind 2008, 2009, we had a crisis. We had a market collapse. People panicked. And there was a TARP bailout that was approved to, help Band-Aid the system. Well, something to that effect is probably going to happen again, not necessarily a bailout, but a need for one. There will be some sort of a market collapse. There will be probably massive losses across the board. This may be the only time we actually see that we see the metals rally in the face of one of these collapses, which it actually looks like it's setting up to do. But in the face of massive losses, massive market collapse, guys, there's like $15 trillion is the estimate. 14, 15. You look at different estimates. $15 trillion is the estimate of money, of cash, of wealth that is sitting in IRAs and 401ks in this country. $15 trillion with a T. That's a lot of money. Now, it's not enough to bail out, hundreds of trillions in derivatives losses that we're probably facing, but it's still a large piggy bank. And it's had a bullseye on its head for a long, long time. In fact, Basel international banking laws have been changed. We've seen bail-ins already materialize in other parts of the world. It's just a matter of time. It's just going to take a massive crisis. And I think you're going to have a large enough majority of people, Sean, that are going to vote for it, that are going to say, hey, we're in panic. Our markets have collapsed. The government has come out with this awesome new Save America bond. And it's going to pay, it's a 50-year bond, and it's going to pay, 7% interest per year. And it's a mandate that half of our IRAs and 401ks go into this bond. Well, I'm going to vote that in. In fact, I'm going to put all of mine into it to save America. I don't know what it's going to look like, Sean, but it'll be dressed up pretty. Large-scale theft typically is. But it's just a matter of time. Yeah, money that is in the system, whether it's in bank accounts, or whether it's in IRAs and 401ks, it can be taken with a click. It can be seized with a click. Assets out of the system, gold and silver, that's even if it's owned by your IRA, but it's buried in a hole in your ground and it's sheltered by this LLC as well, it can't be taken with a click. So, yeah, I think people are in for a really, really big surprise, Sean.
All right, well, let me ask you this then. If people wanted to get in touch with you to discuss this, just help me understand how it works. My understanding is, they're able to buy physical precious metals, and is it also true they can buy mining stocks? Take us through it. And then the secondary question is, where do the physical precious metals get stored once they've been purchased for the LLC IRA?
Gotcha. Once this is set up and the client is managing this account, he or she can go open a Scottrade or an E-Trade type account. He or she could go hire an advisor if they wanted to with the LLC money, a Raymond James or an Ed Jones or whatever, to invest in, to invest the money if they wanted to. So, once this is set up, the individual can go back and invest in all the traditional stocks and bonds and mutual funds if they want to. Now they have the added protection of the LLC. There's other benefits that are built in there as well. But yes, mining shares, absolutely. If they want to manage those investments themselves, they can. They can open an E-Trade or a Scottrade and buy the shares and hold them and sell them and whatever. If they want to have someone do that for them, they certainly can. A Schiff or a Sprott or a whoever, they could take that account to them and say, hey, I want to invest, $20,000 of this money into mining shares, and I want you to manage it for me. Absolutely, you can do that. With the physical metals, it's basically an investment that the LLC is making, much like if it were buying shares in Fortuna Silver or some mining company. But in this case, it's going to be buying physical coins, physical U.S. Eagle coins. The U.S. Eagles are mentioned in the tax code specifically as being eligible to be owned by an IRA without the third-party storage requirements. Now, this structural framework, this IRA LLC framework, is really the only way where you can buy those Eagles and put them under your mattress or wherever you want. So the storage question, wherever your imagination can take you. We have folks that use traditional storage options. If somebody's buying, they've got a $150,000 IRA, it's their life savings, and they are convinced that silver's the way to go, and they go all in silver. Well, that's a lot of silver to store. We've had clients that'll hide all that silver in the walls or literally in holes in the midnight gardening, holes in the ground. And we've had clients that use private storage options. Those are out there. We've seen a pretty good rise here in the last few years of private bullion storage options. We use a gentleman up in Washington State, in Spokane, Washington, but those are sprinkled about all over the country. So yeah, you can store it anywhere, Sean. And again, the LLC owns the metal. The individual does not own the metal. At some point in time, this IRA is going to have to be distributed to the individual, just like a normal IRA. At 59.5, you can take distributions. At 70.5, you have to take distributions. So fast forward to 70.5, you're forced to start taking distributions now based on your age and the size of the account. You have to take out $10,000 a year. Okay, whatever $10,000 at the time of value is of those silver Eagles, you just take those out of the LLC hole in the ground and go carry them over to your personal hole in the ground and put them in that one. So you distribute them just like you're distributing a normal IRA. And at that point, you do pay taxes, just like a normal IRA. You take money out, it's regular income for that year. So yeah, to give you that, if that gives you some perspective on kind of the overall framework, let's say you have an IRA at Merrill Lynch or Fidelity or wherever, our process is turnkey. There's a lot of steps in here. There's a lot of paperwork. We handle it all, so the client just has to sign a few rounds of documents, and but we get an account opened for you at the self-directed trustee. We get the Merrill Lynch or the Fidelity, the old IRA, the old 401ks. We get those rolled over into the new account. We get the LLC filed and created. We help you get the bank account opened, and then we assist in getting the money, the investment approved, if you will, getting the money from the IRA account, the self-directed IRA account, to that bank account, to that LLC bank account. As far as the IRS or the self-directed custodian is concerned, the individual is not buying gold or silver Eagles. The IRA rather, is buying a limited liability company. Much like if your IRA was going to invest in IBM stock or Apple stock or Chevron oil stock. Same thing, only it's buying 100% of the shares of a newly formed limited liability company, XYZ Investments, Sean's Holdings, whatever. That company is being purchased by the IRA. So as far as the regulatory body, one of our questions that we get is, hey man, is this a flag? Am I going to get audited? Do I have to keep all these extensive reports? No, and no. As far as the regulatory bodies are concerned, the only thing that's public knowledge that you're doing is you're rolling over from Merrill Lynch or Fidelity over to a self-directed IRA, which is then investing in a limited liability company.
Okay, very good. Well, one of the cool things I'm hearing you say, Will, is you can take the ones and zeros that you see on your statement or on your computer balance there, and you can turn it into something physical and tangible under your own control, which I think is a real gift, especially if we're headed the way of Venezuela.
No question, buddy. No question. You're turning those pretty little zeros and ones and those computer digits into physical wealth that has been wealth, God's money for 5,000 years since man has walked the earth. And you're also, like I alluded to earlier, you're putting it in, you're taking it out of these digital ones and zeros, you're putting it into something physical that can only be taken from you with a gun to your head. Mm-hmm. It can't be seized with the push of a button.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this too, because for the guy listening who has $100,000 in one account and he wants to test the waters with this LLC IRA, does he have to move all 100,000, or can he hedge his bets and go, well, I'm going to do 60,000 with Will in this LLC IRA, and I'm going to leave 40,000 where it is?
Absolutely. Hedge your bets. Absolutely. Yeah. We've got clients, especially higher net worth clients, that have done that. Absolutely. They'll roll over a portion of it. You can roll over a fixed dollar, any amount you want. Yep. Absolutely. So, you can stick your toe in the water. Most folks will do so. Not most, but most folks that do so find, man, I can do everything I wanted to do with my old IRA platform and more here, so they'll end up bringing more of it over. Maybe if they want to diversify it, they'll start another one, or they'll go to another state or a different LLC. I mean, again, if ultra high net worth investors that have a lot of money to protect, they have to get even more creative. But yes, absolutely, you can dip your toe in the water. You don't have to bring over the whole amount.
Well, Will, how do people get a hold of you personally if they want to ask you additional questions and get the ball rolling on this thing?
Yeah, our website, perpetualassets.com. Our phone number is on the website. It's 888-281-2630. You can get directly in contact with myself or Gus, the other managing partner. Feel free to jump on the website and go to the contact us and just shoot us a quick email if that's an easier way for you to communicate, or if you just have a quick question you want to fire off. Any of the above. Yeah, and we'll, Gus and I pride ourselves on making ourselves available for folks. So
okay, so you can coach people up on all the ins and outs and exactly which precious metals they should be purchasing.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, well, Will, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Hey, Sean, love your show, man. Thanks for having me on. It's SGT is still my main stop for news these days. So keep up the great work, man. We really love it.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate you saying that. And guys, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate your support at sgtreport.com and thelibertymill.com. Real news 24/7. Thanks for listening.